This is Kurtop. Here are 100 artifacts linking ancient cultures to space. $2 billion for silence about aliens. The well-known ufologist Stephen Greer is once again in the spotlight. He stated that he received a generous offer from a high-ranking representative of the United States government, a person he calls one of the top unidentified flying object experts. According to Greer, he was offered a huge sum just to keep quiet. Greer founded the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence in 1990 and has recently claimed contact with aliens and covert government activity. His reputation is debated among ufologists. Some call him a brave whistleblower. Others see him as an evidenceless fanatic. He said that in 1992, General Albert Stubblebine, former United States military intelligence head, allegedly offered him $2 billion to end his public activities. At the time, Greer was just over 30, a young doctor who said he seriously considered it, but declined. He believed this was part of a major disinformation operation involving the CIA and other intelligence agencies. The host of the podcast where this story was told expressed doubt, calling it hard to believe. But Greer insists he is willing to take lie detector tests and his wife can verify his claims. However, General Stubblebine died in 2017 and can no longer refute or confirm this story. Artifacts that are not shown. You'd be surprised, but not all archaeological finds make it to museum displays. Some disappear even before official documentation. They have no press releases, aren't on television, and don't appear in scientific catalogs. They're either lost or hidden. Sometimes it's by order from above, sometimes to avoid causing problems, and sometimes because no one wants to explain what it even is. In one of the expeditions of the 1970s, which was accidentally mentioned by a former assistant of the Cairo Museum, there was talk of a copper disc that was found. On its surface were symbols that could not be matched to any known script. The object was stored and lost a month later. Later, photos surfaced, showing the disc and a star map that wasn't ours. Evidence shows that objects made of unidentifiable alloys were found in 5th Dynasty burial sites. An archaeologist with a copy of the report claimed, "It's neither bronze, gold, nor silver. It's something else. No one knows where they are now." Some might say it's a myth, but then why is access to the Cairo Museum's vault closed to most researchers? Why can't even Egyptian scholars get in there without special permission? These items could explain a lot, or cast too much doubt on everything. Hollow Earth, the final door. If someone told me this 10 years ago, I would have laughed. Vikings, Antarctica, the underground world, Nazis who went inside the planet. All of this sounded like crazy science fiction, but the deeper I dive into documents, diaries, and declassified reports, the more I realize this isn't just nonsense. It was part of an ideological construct. According to one theory, the Nazis believed in the existence of a hollow Earth, a space inside the planet where an ancient civilization was preserved. Paradise, Agartha, the inner world. Interpretations differ, but the essence is the same. This is supposedly a place of power, untouched by destruction and time. There are indeed mentions in the archives of an expedition to Antarctica, planes that disappeared without a trace, and pilots' stories about a mysterious glow that came not from the sky, but from beneath their feet. Some of these ideas may have originated in the Anomalies, while others appeared later among those who were fleeing. It doesn't matter who created them. What matters is how these myths fit into the worldview, not as a fairy tale, but as a refuge. The sarcophagus of Menkaure. Menkaure's pyramid is the smallest of the 3 built in Giza about 4,500 years ago. In the 1830s, English officer Howard Vyse explored the pyramids of Giza, often using destructive methods to access them. Among his discoveries in Giza was a richly decorated sarcophagus found in Menkaure's pyramid, which Vyse tried to send to England in 1838 on the merchant ship Beatrice. The Beatrice sank during the voyage, taking the sarcophagus with it. If the Beatrice is found, the sarcophagus might also be recoverable. The Colgante disc. An object called the Colgante disc, kept in the Rafael Larco Herrera Archaeological Museum in the capital of Peru, Lima, may be evidence that people in ancient times knew what the arms of a galaxy look like. This artifact, which is believed to have been created about 2,000 years ago, looks like a spiral galaxy. But here's the catch. The number of arms on this disk does not match the number of arms in our galaxy. If we assume that the disk really depicts a galaxy, this calls into question many things we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. At the same time, the Colgante disk remains a mysterious artifact that raises more questions than it answers. The Kegum Incident. This photo, often referred to as the Kegum Incident, allegedly shows the site of a supposed unidentified flying object crash in the forest, which is rumored to have occurred in the Soviet Union in the 1960s. Popular theories claim the incident was classified, and the military quickly cordoned off the discovery site. It is said that the object is a metallic disc about 10 meters in diameter with a smooth surface, covered in strange symbols resembling hieroglyphs. Local eyewitnesses, now nearly impossible to find, claimed that the crash site contained not only strange debris, but also humanoid, non-human remains. In the context of the Cold War, such events were carefully concealed to avoid mass panic or leaks of information about alleged technologies that could provide an advantage in the arms race. Conspiracy theorists claimed that the crash technology could have been studied and partially used in subsequent military developments. What makes this story even more mysterious is its coincidence with other alleged unidentified flying object crash cases, such as Roswell in the United States. This has led to the theory that these events involve a global interaction between governments and extraterrestrial civilizations, with both sides trying to uncover the visitors' technologies. The incident's credibility is still uncertain, but photos and descriptions continue to draw those seeking evidence of extraterrestrial presence on Earth. Flying Tic Tac. Another unidentified flying object has been found on Mars. At least that's what social media users decided when they saw the strange photo taken by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration rover. Amid rocks and dust, a smooth cylindrical object appeared resembling a Tic Tac candy. Light and shadow added to its mystery, making it seem to hover above the surface. This photo wasn't taken yesterday. It was taken by the Curiosity rover back in 2020 during the search for traces of ancient life. But attention to it only flared up now when one of the Reddit users posted the photo with the caption, "Tic Tac on Mars," and then it all took off. Some even compared it to that very unidentified flying object that, in 2004, was observed by United States Navy pilot David Freever over the Pacific Ocean. The pilot described a wingless, windowless white object shaped like a Tic Tac that moved at incredible speed and vanished from radar. But if we go back to Mars, most likely, it's just an unusual rock. It appears to be flying because of the features of the photography and the shadows. A large void above the Grand Gallery. In 2017, the world was shaken by the news. An unknown chamber was discovered inside the Great Pyramid using muon tomography. It is located right above the Grand Gallery and is comparable to it in size, about 30 meters long. This isn't just a crack or gap, it's an empty space fully integrated into the architecture. Strangely, it's completely isolated. No entrance, exit, access, or attempts to open it. The scanned pyramid scientists named the discovery the Great Void, noting they don't know its contents. It could be a hidden room, a ritual space, a secret corridor, but something is holding back further research. Over 7 years have passed and no one has drilled through the wall, sent a drone, or found the secret. Some theorize that inside there could be evidence that challenges our beliefs about the pyramid's age, purpose, or creators who predate Egypt. That's a frightening prospect, because if the Great Void is a sealed capsule of knowledge, then everything we know about the pharaohs might just be a cover story, and the text remains locked inside. A ritual horse burial. Archaeologists examined the remains of a horse buried in a stone tomb in western Armenia and found that an adult pedigree horse, aged 17 to 19 years, was buried for ritual purposes. This occurred from the 4th to 1st centuries before Christ under the Orontids' reign. According to scientists, the find is the only known ritual horse burial in the Caucasus. The most valuable breed of antiquity, bred around the 6th century before Christ, was the Nicean horse, which was mainly bred in Media. Many ancient authors, including Herodotus and Strabo, mention them as tall and slender horses, used in particular by the army of the Persian king Xerxes. Owning such horses remained an honor even during the Hellenistic period. For example, Alexander the Great, who conquered Persia, demanded Nicean horses as tribute. Archaeologists discovered a round burial mound about 1 meter high and 14 meters in diameter. The walls of the burial were made of large basalt stones. In the oval chamber, measuring 1.6 by 2.2 meters, were the remains of a horse with bent limbs. In the animal's mouth, between the incisors and molars of the lower jaw, there was a metal ring. No other burial items were found. Archaeologists determined this is the only known ritual burial of a separate Nicean horse in the Caucasus. The metal ring inserted into the lower jaw indicates that the horse was a breeding animal. An idol with a broken arm. On the Peta-Rushikonda beach in India, nature presented an unexpected find. An ancient granite statue of the god Vishnu was washed ashore. The artifact stands about a meter tall and may be up to 700 years old, experts say. The statue is divided into two, with one arm damaged in 2 spots. The find is unique for both its preservation and material. At that time, most statues in the region were made from condylite, a local stone, but this sculpture is carved from granite, which is already a rarity in itself. This may indicate the idol's special status or origin from another area. Vishnu is one of the main deities of the Hindu pantheon, the protector and preserver of the world. He is often depicted with 4 arms, holding symbolic objects. According to experts, the broken arm of this statue once held a shanka, a conch shell symbolizing the divine sound of creation and a call to virtue. The statue likely once stood in a temple and, following ancient tradition, was ritually placed in water after being damaged, as was common for destroyed sacred images. Perhaps the sea has returned it to the land once again, reminding us of long-forgotten stories. The Eye of the Sahara. This geological structure was first seen by astronauts in 1965, and that's where its name comes from. From above, it resembles a large eye ringed by green circles. It's a dolerite intrusion surrounded by sparse vegetation, which is a rare phenomenon for the desert. Cosmonauts even used it as a landmark because it's the most noticeable structure in the Sahara. In the center of the formation, there are siliceous breccias, which are special types of sedimentary rocks. This indicates its ancient origin, which scientists estimate to be millions of years old. The oldest ring is about 600 million years old. Initially thought to be a meteorite impact site, this theory was never confirmed. Then scientists suggested that Galpa Rishat has a geological origin. New studies show that this structure was formed under the influence of hydrothermal waters. One of the most unique features of the Eye of the Sahara is its ability to change light throughout the day, depending on thermal emission. And although there are still many debates and assumptions about the origin of this geological wonder, most modern scientists believe that it is the result of erosion after the uplift of a section of the Earth's crust. A mystery in the Amazon jungle. Padre Carlos Crespi Croce, an Italian missionary who dedicated most of his life to serving in Ecuador, became one of the most mysterious figures of the 20th century thanks to his unusual collection of artifacts. While working with the Shuar tribes in the jungles of Ecuador, he acquired many ancient objects that, according to some researchers, could be evidence of the existence of an ancient, highly developed civilization, and possibly even contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Crespi's collection included strange metal plates with engraved symbols resembling ancient scripts, figurines depicting creatures with unusual features, and objects that many described as technologically sophisticated. The metal reliefs were especially intriguing, depicting beings with elongated skulls, stars, and scenes reminiscent of space travel. Interestingly, there were no known civilizations in this region that could have produced such complex artifacts. Rumors about the collection spread after some visitors, including researchers, claimed to have seen evidence of extraterrestrial influence in it. Some of the artifacts, according to witnesses, were made of metals that could not be identified. Crespi, however, did not seek fame. He claimed that he received these items from local tribes in exchange for assistance and food. The connection of the collection with extraterrestrial civilizations becomes even more interesting if we consider the mystery of the tunnels under Ecuador, which are the subject of legends. The tunnels, known as the Rio system, are said to contain a library of metal books. Some theorists suggest that these tunnels were a base for an ancient race, possibly of extraterrestrial origin. The Crespi collection could have been part of these treasures. Unfortunately, after Padre Crespi's death in 1982, the collection was destroyed by fire or stolen, and its fate remains unclear. And what do you think? Could the missionary have become the keeper of traces of an ancient cosmic civilization hidden in the Amazon jungle? A German bunker in the Arctic. In the north of the Kola Peninsula, in the harsh Arctic tundra, there stands a half-ruined German bunker from the time of World War II. This started as an ordinary military facility built during the Nazi occupation of Northern Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, but over time, legends grew around it. Local residents and ufologists claim that it was not just a supply base. Supposedly, this place was one of the secret strongholds of the Third Reich, where the Germans transported equipment, artifacts, and conducted mysterious research. According to some versions, even experiments with anti-gravity and interdimensional travel. The bunker drew attention due to its unusual activity. Equipment fails nearby, compasses malfunction, and tourists see strange lights in the sky. In the 90s, expeditions came here, not just historians, but also esoteric researchers. Some hypothesize the site is linked to the legendary Base 211, a supposed secret Nazi hideout in Antarctica, but as an Arctic branch. However, there is no scientific evidence for this. A nearly mythical tale surrounds this ordinary bunker and still captivates people today. 3 missing artifacts. When engineer Wayman Dixon descended into a narrow passage inside the Great Pyramid in 1872, he probably didn't expect to stumble upon one of Egypt's strangest mysteries. From a deep ventilation shaft only a few inches wide, he retrieved 3 objects: a stone ball, a copper hook, and a piece of cedar wood. All of them looked primitive, but that's exactly what raises questions. Why were such items hidden in a hard-to-reach shaft, and who put them there and how? These finds, later known as the Dixon relics, quickly became surrounded by myths. The stone is perfectly smooth, as if carved, and the hook's odd shape resembles a tool more than a relic. The wooden fragment became the story's most mystical part. After it was handed over to Edinburgh, it disappeared, simply vanished for decades. A piece of the wood was only accidentally found in a forgotten box in the 2020s. Analysis showed it was over 5,000 years old, possibly older than the pyramid itself. Why is this hardly ever mentioned? Why is no one in a hurry to investigate further? These 3 objects are key, not to the sarcophagus, but to something older and more terrifying. A secret the pyramid still hides. The horse in ancient times. Geneticists have confirmed the archaeologists' theory that the horse was domesticated in the Black Sea region 4,000 years ago. Russian and French scientists have found that the domestication of horses began relatively recently, at the end of the 2nd millennium before Christ. That is, thousands of years after ancient humans domesticated other animals. The first friend of Homo sapiens was the dog. Back in the late Paleolithic era, it guarded its owner's dwelling, helped drive prey during hunts, and accompanied people everywhere during migrations. The bones of domestic dogs have been found in abundance at various archaeological sites from the beginning of the Holocene era, about 10,000 years ago. 6,000 years later, humans domesticated cows, goats, sheep, and pigs, greatly impacting ancient life. By the end of the 2nd millennium before Christ, large numbers of domesticated animal bones appeared at Sintashta culture sites. The presence of chariots in the Sintashta culture clearly shows how horses were used. The domestication of the horse opened an entirely new chapter in the life of ancient humans. By riding it, he rose above his peers and felt the strength and power that turned him into a warrior and allowed him to cover thousands of kilometers in a relatively short time, explore new and unknown territories, and come into contact with local cultures and civilizations. human migration accelerated significantly. In other words, the horse lifted humans off the ground, giving them a sense of freedom, strength, and the feeling of flight. A horse is more than transportation or a weapon. It represents a way of life and special status for the rider. A bracelet that is 70,000 years old. Scientists believe that this bracelet, which is 65 to 70,000 years old, was created by Denisovans, an ancient species of hominid, closely related to, but distinct from Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. If this is confirmed, the date of the bracelet's creation will have to be moved back 30,000 years. The bracelet was discovered in Siberia, and it may change our understanding of ancient human development. It's already making scientists rethink established technology levels. For example, the bracelet has a hole made by drilling or sawing. Extraterrestrial metal found in ancient Polish burials. This archaeological discovery reshapes our view of ancient society's technical abilities. In two early Iron Age burials, dated to between 750 and 600 before Christ, researchers discovered 4 artifacts, 3 bracelets and a pin, made from meteoritic iron. These items were found in Częstochowa in southern Poland and were kept in the local museum for a long time. Only recently, with the help of modern technology, was their unique origin established. Analysis of the metal's composition using X-ray scanning and electron microscopy showed that the iron contains a high amount of nickel and cobalt, which is characteristic of rare ataxite meteorites. Moreover, the ornaments on the bracelets were probably made using different types of iron, possibly to create a pattern. This may be the oldest example of patterned iron known to mankind. Meteoric iron is more than just a metal. In ancient times, it was seen as a heavenly gift and used for special objects. Similar discoveries include a meteoric iron dagger found in Tutankhamun's tomb in Egypt. And now there is confirmation that such technologies were known in Europe centuries before Rome. Scientists believe the iron was likely sourced locally, possibly after a meteorite fall. This confirms that the items had not only practical, but also ritual value. Discovery by Czech archaeologists. Czechia, centrally located in Europe, has seen trade routes and armies pass through it since ancient times. It's no surprise that ancient treasures are found here from time to time. The discovery was made in 2020, but scientists only revealed it to journalists last November after thorough analyses with X-rays, spectrometry, and other methods. An archaeological team was excavating near Rakovník, about 50 kilometers west of Prague. Jewelry made over 1,500 years ago was found here. Based on its craftsmanship and materials, it likely belonged to the era's highest aristocracy. Specialists haven't disclosed the exact location of the unique treasure as major excavations continue. But it can be said for certain that the discovery is connected to the era of the Great Migration of Peoples in the 5th century AD. There was no state territory of modern Czechia at that time, so it is impossible to say to whom the discovered jewelry belonged. It is possible that this is part of military loot that was buried with the intention of coming back for it. But the gold buckle and ring, which weigh more than 150 grams, are richly decorated with precious stones. These are Czech garnets and Indian almandines. Garnet remains a symbol of the Czech Republic, and many tourists buy it in stores when visiting Prague and other Czech cities. Interestingly, these are the oldest processed garnets ever found in the Czech Republic. This discovery is now considered an artifact of exceptional historical, artistic, and cultural importance. Archaeologists say treasures of this value found in Europe are extremely rare. The current working hypothesis is that these ornaments were not made in the Czech Republic, but on the territory of the Roman Empire in Italian Ravenna or Byzantine Constantinople, a separate form of life. Scientists are again revising their views on one of ancient Earth's most mysterious inhabitants, prototoxates. For a long time, it was considered a giant fungus, but new research has cast doubt even on that version. According to paleontologists, prototoxates was neither a plant, nor a fungus, nor an animal. It may have represented a separate, completely extinct branch of the tree of life. These strange creatures lived around 420 to 375 million years ago and were the first giants on land. Some of them reached 8 meters in height and 1 meter in width. They were first discovered back in the 19th century, and for a long time they were thought to be the remains of ancient trees. In 2007, researchers proposed these were fungi, as chemical analyses showed prototaxites fed on organic matter like modern fungi. However, a new study based on a fossil of the species Prototaxites taitae found in Scotland produced opposite results. Scientists discovered that these organisms lack chitin, a key component of fungal cells, but contain substances similar to lignin, which is characteristic of plants, although it has a different structure. Prototaxites had a unique structure, with bodies composed of tubes different from those in fungi. No modern creature combines these properties: a complex multicellular structure, a specific chemical composition, and a unique way of feeding. Researchers think this may have been a member of a previously unknown eukaryote group, organisms with a cell nucleus. Why Prototaxites disappeared still remains a mystery. Perhaps they were displaced by more efficient plants or fungi that took over their ecological niche. Prototaxites remains a mysterious reminder of how strange and diverse life was at the dawn of Earth's ecosystems. When UFOs became a matter of state concern, antiquity is not the place where you would expect bureaucracy documenting UFOs, but in Rome it existed. The priests had direct access to power, and they kept official records of omens. Anything unusual in the sky was viewed as a divine message, and a blazing shield over the city was seen as a political sign. Gaius Julius Obsecens, a Roman historian, collected such reports in the Prodigiorum Liber, and the list looked eerily familiar. Glowing discs, moving lights, figures in the sky that hovered and disappeared. This isn't folklore, it's official state reporting. Sometimes these phenomena led the Senate to overturn decisions, start wars, or even make peace. Because if a sign came from above, you were obliged to respond to it. One of these signs was the disappearance of King Romulus. The founder of Rome was reportedly taken up to the sky before the crowd. He didn't die or run away. He literally ascended, so Rome has a god-founder from above. This isn't about their belief in UFOs, but how seriously they took them. The ancients couldn't explain it, but they didn't ignore it. Today, we do the opposite. We pretend everything is fine, even though things aren't clear. A tiny mummy in Atacama, 20 years ago, in an abandoned mining town in the Atacama Desert in Chile. The mummified remains of a humanoid only 15 centimeters tall were found. When this skeleton ended up in the hands of a private collector in Spain, it sparked a storm of speculation about its origin, and even appeared in a documentary as possible evidence of extraterrestrial life. Scientists from California were able to extract DNA from the mummy's bones and uncover the real and tragic story of this being, which was given the name Ata. This was not a visitor from another world, but a girl who had apparently been stillborn or died soon after birth, with horrifying mutations that determined her unusual physique. Despite being only 15 centimeters long, some features of her bones indicated an age of 6 to 8 years. Instead of the usual 12 pairs of ribs, Ata had only 10. Her head was elongated and cone-shaped. Professor Harry Nolan, who led the research, thinks Ata was stillborn or died at birth. Her deformities were so severe that she wouldn't have been able to eat. In her condition, she would have been placed in a neonatal intensive care unit, but such devices simply weren't available in the place where her remains were found. It all started as a story about aliens, but in reality it's a story about human tragedy. A woman gave birth to a deformed child who was preserved and sold as a strange artifact. In the end, it turned out to be a human with an amazing genetic story, from which we can learn a lot that will help others. Life on Saturn's moon. Now let's move on to space. While the astronauts of the Boeing Starliner spacecraft, Book Wilmar and Suni Williams, continue to sadly await their return to Earth in February, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is actively preparing for future missions. In 2028, the Dragonfly spacecraft is scheduled to launch to Titan, Saturn's moon, which scientists believe may hold incredible secrets. Dragonfly is expected to reach Titan in 2034. Recent studies have shown that beneath Titan's thick, icy crust, There may be an ocean with warmth, creating conditions for the emergence of life. Moreover, beneath ice up to 10 kilometers thick, there may be an atmosphere, rivers, and seas, likely made of hydrocarbons such as methane and ethane. Dragonfly will be an important step in exploring extraterrestrial oceans and searching for alien life beyond Earth. The singing sarcophagi of the Serapeum. Beneath the sands of Saqqara lies a 300-meter-long gallery, the Serapeum. In its side niches stand 40 granite boxes, each weighing over 60 tons. Egyptologists refer to them as sarcophagi for the sacred Apis bulls, but they are nearly empty, containing only a few bone fragments. But the main thing here is the acoustics. When Massachusetts acousticians activated a low-frequency generator in one of the boxes in 2019, the granite produced a pure 110 hertz tone, the same as the resonant frequency of the human chest. Standing inside, the sound vibrates in your bones. Ancient priests could have used this to put themselves, and possibly bulls, into an altered state. But then why have half-meter thick lids polished to a mirror finish on the inside? Some hypothesize the boxes weren't tombs but resonators that amplified Earth's vibrations. Their polished interiors reflected sound repeatedly, producing standing waves. Some researchers believe the complex may have included an entire sound organ, a set of chambers each tuned to different frequencies. If so, the Serapeum isn't a cemetery but an ancient acoustic energy laboratory. Smaller than a hobbit. Scientists made an amazing discovery in South Africa. They found the remains of the shortest ancient human known to science. We're discussing a Paranthropus robustus representative who lived around 2 million years ago. He was less than a meter tall and weighed about 27 kilograms, which makes him even shorter than the famous hobbits, Homo floresiensis. Unique remains were found in the Swartkrans cave, where archaeologists discovered articulated thigh, shin, and pelvis bones. Everything indicates that the adult individual was probably a woman. Despite her tiny size, researchers believe she had a well-developed brain for her time and may have been able to make simple stone and bone tools. Paranthropus robustus is a side branch on the tree of human evolution. They had a powerful skull, strong jaws, and teeth adapted to coarse plant food. They were not direct ancestors of Homo sapiens, but lived at the same time and shared the same landscapes. The discovery has greatly changed our view of this species' variability. Previously, Paranthropus were thought to be larger, but now it's clear there could be notable differences in height and build within one species, maybe because of sex, climate, or living conditions. Metals that shouldn't exist. When we talk about ancient Egypt, we think of bronze, copper, and gold, but some discoveries cast doubt on this. In tombs that were long considered to be fully explored, objects are sometimes found made of alloys, whose chemical composition doesn't match any known from that era. One such case happened back in the 1990s. In a cache near the Pyramid of Unas, a small plate was found, presumably a decorative element of a sarcophagus. It contained zinc, nickel, and a small amount of aluminum. The problem is that aluminum only began to be extracted on a large scale in the 19th century. It doesn't occur naturally and must be obtained through high temperatures and electrolysis. Where did it come from in ancient Egypt? Another example is a cylindrical object resembling a tooltip found in the Saqqara area. Analysis revealed rare earth metals, which remained difficult to extract. The object had signs of wear, as if it had been used for drilling or cutting stone, not wood. There were also rings, plate fragments, and sarcophagus parts. The alloy's complex composition and advanced production technology exceed ancient Egyptian metallurgy. Official reports on these findings were either unpublished or simply stated, the composition does not correspond to the era. The Lost Library of the Moscow Tsars. The Library of the Moscow Tsars supposedly contained an extensive collection of Greek texts dating back to ancient times, as well as texts written in many other languages. The rulers of the Grand Duchy of Moscow supposedly built a library that by the 16th century had become a major institution. There is a claim that Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible, who lived from 1530 to 1584, somehow managed to hide the library's texts. For centuries, many attempts have been made to find this hidden library, but so far seekers have come up empty-handed. Whether this hidden library existed or not, A number of ancient texts written in Greek and other languages are kept in the archives of Moscow and St. Petersburg. A simple stone hid a vital secret. During excavations in southern Spain, archaeologists found an artifact that could change our understanding of prehistoric Europe. We're talking about a stone with ancient carvings discovered in the Marbella area. Preliminary estimates say it's over 200,000 years old. If the age is confirmed, this will be one of the oldest known symbolic images found in Europe, almost 100,000 years older than the famous cave paintings of Spain. The discovery was made at the Kotu Korea site. It has been known to archaeologists for a long time, since the 1950s. Stone tools had been found there before, but the engraved gabbro rock caused a real sensation. Several lines carved on its surface may indicate the first signs of symbolic thinking in ancient humans. Unknown creatures. Sometimes archaeologists find images they cannot explain. They are too strange even for mythology. In one of the temples in the Dendera area, figures were noticed on the remains of the reliefs that stand out from the usual pantheon. They have long arms, large eyes, and water-drop-shaped heads. They stand in a circle with stars above them, a person with raised hands in the center, and erased inscriptions. This isn't an isolated case. Other Egyptian temples like Vetfu and Abydos also have figures on underground tomb walls that don't resemble humans, animals, or gods. They are sometimes shown standing on platforms amid fire or holding a sphere with sunlight but clearly technical rays. One of the most mysterious reliefs, the so-called Dendera lamp, actually looks like something resembling a glass container with a cable from which a snake emerges. Mystical figurines. These unusual figurines from the ancient Mexican city of Teotihuacan are rare examples of the art and worldview of Aztec culture. Discovered in 1933 in the Metepec area by an American anthropologist, the figurines depict men and women with hollow torsos that can be opened. Inside, there are smaller figurines or objects which has sparked much debate about their meaning and purpose. Such figurines are often called hosts because of their unusual contents. The hollow in the chest is symbolically closed with a door, suggesting hidden knowledge, secret meaning, or the inner self. Perhaps these figurines embody the philosophical concept of the Nawal, an inner spirit or companion that accompanied a person on their spiritual journey and throughout their life. Some interpretations link the figurines to fertility, nurturing, or spiritual growth symbols. They may have represented social or religious roles. A warrior, ruler, merchant, or elite woman from Teotihuacan society. The fine detailing, as well as the ability to open and close the figurines, speaks to the high level of craftsmanship of their creators. This unique design may have symbolized the interaction between inner and outer worlds, and the desire to reveal hidden truths about humans and the world. Tunnels under the pyramids. Under the Khafra pyramid in Egypt, archaeologists have reported the discovery of a mysterious system of underground structures. A study conducted using radar equipment revealed the presence of 5 identical structures with sloped roofs and 8 deep shafts, each descending into the earth for 648 meters. According to the researchers, all of them are connected by 2 chambers, about 80 meters wide. Preliminary data shows the underground complex is over 1.9 kilometers long. Scientists suggest that the structures were created artificially, but their purpose remains unknown. Some are calling it an underground city that could change how we view the scale of ancient Egyptian structures. However, not all experts agree with such bold conclusions. Professor Lawrence Conyers, a ground-penetrating radar expert, questioned the data's reliability. According to him, modern technologies do not allow us to look beneath the earth to such a depth with the accuracy required for such statements. He urged caution and said the discovery can only be confirmed by actual excavations. The discovery of the oldest nuclear reactor in the world. It's funny, but the first human-made reactor producing electricity was only created in 1951. But the stone block of Oklo in Gabon was already generating nuclear energy 2 billion years ago. The story of the discovery began in 1972, when French scientists took a sample of uranium ore from a deposit in Gabon to test its uranium composition. The scientists made a remarkable discovery. The uranium sample had less uranium-235 than normal, indicating about 200 kilograms had vanished from the mine. As it turned out, the missing uranium had gone through the process of nuclear fission and split into other atoms. It turns out that nature accidentally created a nuclear reactor operating under very specific conditions necessary for the sustained release of energy, and this really happened. First, the ore contained enough uranium-235 to sustain the reaction. Second, uranium-235 naturally decays, releasing a neutron that initiates the fission process. And finally, there was enough groundwater at the reactor site to slow down the neutrons and regulate the reaction. The oldest piece of art. Researchers from Bournemouth University and Guangzhou University found 5 handprints and 5 footprints in Kasong on the Tibetan Plateau, dating back 169,000 to 226,000 years ago during the Ice Age. The prints were preserved in freshwater limestone deposited around a hot spring known as travertine. Judging by the size of the prints, analysis shows that they were carefully placed by children between the ages of 7 and 12. The dating of the prints was done using a radiometric method based on the decay of uranium found in the travertine, which indicates the earliest hominid settlement on the Tibetan Plateau. The prints were likely made intentionally, not during ordinary walking, and may be the earliest known example of stationary or parietal art. Imagine these children playing in mud by a hot spring, placing their hands and feet where they'd be preserved for thousands of years for us to discover. Just like a child today might do this in cement. It's similar to mud. The clay hardened and turned into travertine, which froze these playful hands and footprints in time. A letter from the future. In one of the temples of Abydos, there is a carving on a ceiling beam that still baffles even those who deny any conspiracy theories. Next to the classic hieroglyphs, you can clearly see a helicopter outline. Below it is something resembling a tank or submarine, and there's also an object that looks like a 4-bladed drone. The detail's shape is too precise to be coincidental. Official science says this is a palimpsest. Priests later carved new symbols over older ones. Some plaster eventually crumbled, and overlapping images formed an optical illusion. But why is this illusion so vivid? Why were the figures complete? And why did they resemble 20th century technology rather than abstract symbols? This isn't an isolated case. Temples at Dendera and Edfu also feature images that seem too technological for their time. The most famous is the Dendera lamp, a large glass bulb with conductive parts inside. Egyptologists call it a symbol of life's origin, while engineers see it as an electron tube diagram. Some inscriptions contain terms that have not been translated to this day, not because they have been forgotten, but because their structure does not fit into known grammar. The tomb of the military commander of the legendary Ramses III. In Egypt, archaeologists made an interesting discovery. In the northeast of the country, an ancient tomb about 3,200 years old was found. It may have belonged to a high-ranking military commander from the time of Ramses III. The main evidence is a gold ring with the engraved name of the pharaoh himself found inside the tomb. The tomb is built of mud brick and includes the main burial chamber as well as 3 additional rooms. Judging by the architecture and the items found inside, this place was intended for an important person closely connected to the military. Among the artifacts are arrowheads, inscribed vessels, an ivory box, and other items of daily life and status. Special attention was drawn to the inscriptions mentioning the name Karimkeb, a famous military leader who later became pharaoh, ruling several decades before Ramses III. This may mean that the tomb was built during his reign and then reused later, a practice quite common in ancient Egypt. Nazi Germany's UFOs. If all the talk about ancient UFOs seems too mythical, then this story is much closer to our time and is far more frightening, because we're going to talk about technologies that were allegedly developed in Nazi Germany during the last years of the war, and about a secret that neither the Allies nor history could take away. The Nazis really did create incredible things, from the first ballistic missiles to jet aircraft. But there is a separate layer of theories that claim flying machines of unimaginable shape and power were developed in hidden Reich bunkers. They are called Haunebu, Vril, and the most mysterious of them, Die Glocke, the bell. The bell is not just a piece of technology. It's a legend surrounded by rumors, disappearances, and strange deaths. According to rumors, the object was a metal machine about 4 meters tall, shaped like a bell, which could distort space and time. It was an anti-gravity engine based on some kind of dark energy, and project staff died because of it. Some claim that Die Glocke disappeared along with the SS elites who went to Antarctica, to a mysterious area called New Swabia. In those unreachable icy depths, a base was reportedly built, starting a new era. Other versions say the bell was found by Americans and taken to the United States. That's why there were strange leaps in technology after 1945. It's hard to believe until you start looking at memoirs, classified documents, and strange activity in the Antarctic region in the late 40s. Some even link this to Operation High Jump, the largest polar military expedition in the United States whose official goal was research. But according to unofficial sources, it was to intercept surviving Nazis with unidentified flying object technology. Historians deny it, but questions remain. Where did so many scientists, engineers, and prototypes go? Why is there still so little information after nearly 80 years? The Eye of Horus in the form of a diagram. Sometimes the mystery isn't hidden underground. It's on the surface, right in front of your eyes. Viewed from above, the Giza complex aligns with the Eye of Horus, the ancient Egyptian symbol of omniscience when you overlay the images. The layout of the pyramids, Sphinx, Queen's Chamber, shafts, and Grand Gallery together form a shape that strangely resembles this sacred symbol. The eye's center aligns with the Great Void, the tear with the descending corridor, and the lines with the shafts. Is this really a coincidence? In Egyptian tradition, the Eye of Horus is more than a symbol. It's a diagram of the universe. Its parts control vision, hearing, taste, speech, touch, and thought. And it is these 6 parts that supposedly correspond with mathematical precision to the structure of the corridor inside the pyramid. Mathematicians and architects, not modern esotericists, were the first to seriously analyze and discuss the internal structure. Assuming the pyramid wasn't a tomb but a knowledge repository, it could be encoded as a massive 3D model. The Laladoff Plate. The Laladoff Plate is a stone dish that is about 12,000 years old. It depicts a disc that resembles an unidentified flying object and a being that looks very similar to the modern idea of an alien. You can also see a spiral galaxy. According to the scientist David Gaiman, the disc was purchased in the city of Mussoorie in northern India and belonged to a strange people called the Zopa, who used such discs during religious ceremonies. He later admitted he fabricated the story, even sketching the disc, which his friend turned into a black and white picture. Amazing artifacts constantly remind us that there is still much we don't know about the place where we live. But we know for sure that Earth's mysteries will be solved sooner or later. The Archer's Tomb. While laying a new power line in Germany, archaeologists stumbled upon a rare find, a burial site about 4,500 years old. In the ground near the city of Förderstedt, there was a whole burial ground of 10 graves belonging to the Bell Beaker culture, which existed during the Copper Age. Researchers were especially interested in 3 well-preserved graves, which scientists believe contain warriors, likely archers. All 3 bodies were buried on their sides, faces turned east. This burial rite was typical for the Bell Beaker culture, named after the ceramic vessels shaped like an inverted bell that were often placed in graves. Food in these vessels was thought to aid the journey to the afterlife. In one of the vessels that were found, archaeologists even discovered remnants of food after thousands of years. One particularly interesting find in one of the graves was a stone bracer about 8 centimeters long. This is a protective part of an archer's equipment, so that the bowstring doesn't hit the arm when shooting. In another grave, arrowheads and a faint trace of a quiver were found. The quiver likely decayed, but its shape was indicated by a color change in the sediment. While such finds may suggest a military past, the deceased could also have been hunters. They might have served as both warriors and food providers. A 1,500-year embrace. Can love truly last forever? Yes, say Chinese anthropologists. Recently, an ancient cemetery was discovered during construction in Shaanxi province. The work was halted to begin archaeological excavations, during which several hundred human burials became available for study. Among all the graves, one grave attracted the scientists' attention. It contained not one but two bodies, intertwined in a tight embrace. By examining the teeth, anthropologists identified one set of remains as male and the other as female. At the time of death, he was approximately 29 to 35 years old, and his height was 161.5 centimeters. The lady was a bit older, between 35 and 40 years old, and slightly shorter, at 157 centimeters. He had survived multiple injuries, including a broken arm, heel spurs, and a missing finger phalange. The woman only had tooth decay, but that couldn't have caused her death. After carefully studying the bones of the deceased, scientists concluded that the man died as a result of his injuries. The woman could not have died of natural causes since she did not have any serious illnesses. She likely ended her life to stay with her beloved, and they lay together for 1,500 years. Historians say that during this time, the belief in eternal love spread nationwide, and expressing feelings was encouraged rather than hidden. Suicides, if their purpose was to remain forever with one's chosen partner, were not condemned. In fact, it was considered praiseworthy. However, this was a rare occurrence. Never before had such graves been found in China, where two lovers would sleep their eternal sleep together. The mysterious mask. A strange iridium artifact found in Florida calls into question the traditional view of ancient civilizations. According to researchers, this item is 10 to 12,000 years old and is made of iridium, a metal that is extremely rare on Earth and is most often found in meteorites. The artifact is striking for its thinness and skillful craftsmanship, which suggests that ancient craftsmen possessed technologies far ahead of their time. On the surface of the item, there is an engraving resembling the deity Viracocha, known in Inca culture as the creator of all things. According to legends, Viracocha came from Lake Titicaca, bringing light and knowledge. This image may be evidence of a connection between ancient peoples and an extraterrestrial civilization, which would explain the use of rare meteoritic material to create this artifact. Historians believe that this item was stolen by Spanish conquistadors in 1715 and taken away on the ship La Concepcion. The ship sank during a storm, and most of the cargo, including other artifacts, remained at the bottom of the ocean. The mask was washed ashore, and according to experts, it represents only a small part of the lost treasures, estimated at $5 billion. Unidentified flying object ISS are not just a 20th century phenomenon. When we hear the word unidentified flying object, the 20th century immediately comes to mind. Roswell films, foil hats. People reported seeing unidentified objects even before television and aviation existed. We have documented cases dating back to ancient Rome. Chronicles recorded fiery shields, flying ships, strange beings descending from the sky, and even abductions in the clouds. All of this was recorded not by science fiction writers, but by historians, monks, and officials in the 4th century AD. The Roman chronicler Iuli Obsequentus describes dozens of such cases in his book Liber Prodigiorum. Over Rome, they supposedly saw blazing spheres, glowing ships, and beings that descended from the sky. That's at least how eyewitnesses saw it. Pliny the Elder also mentions a mysterious burning shield that hovered over the city during the Second Punic War. This isn't the only case. Similar accounts appear in the chronicles of Ireland, China, and India. What was it? A coincidence in symbolism? Mass hallucination? Or did we really observe the same phenomenon, just calling it by different names in different eras? Once called gods, then angels, now aliens. The essence may be unchanged. A ring and human fingers. Not far from the ancient city of Corinth, in a place called Heliomodon on the Peloponnese, archaeologists made an amazing discovery, a large tomb from the Hellenistic period, which over time turned into a sanctuary. The tomb, built between 323 and the 320s before Christ, is shaped like an elongated T. The central burial chamber, about 7.4 meters long and almost 3 meters wide, was sealed with a stone slab resembling a door. Researchers discovered a woman's sarcophagus, 5 stone boxes, and many valuable artifacts inside. Of particular interest was a gold signet ring depicting Apollon, next to whom a snake is shown, an ancient symbol of healing that later became the emblem of medicine. They also found gold burial wreath leaves, coins, perfume bottles, beads, and small metal objects nearby. The tomb was used for more than 1 century. In the Roman period, roughly between the 250s and 450s AD, it became a place of worship. Outside its walls, archaeologists found clay anatomical offerings, fingers, and part of a hand, which were likely left by pilgrims praying for miraculous healing. The skulls are not of that type. When archaeologists began systematically opening tombs in southern Egypt and Nubia in the early 20th century, they noticed something strange. Some of the skulls found didn't match human anatomy. They had eye sockets, a jaw, and a parietal area, but with abnormalities, elongated occiputs, oversized cranial vaults, and missing sutures typical of normal skulls. Some of the skulls were so elongated that they resembled cones, as if they had been artificially deformed, but no traces of artificial deformation were found. Later in the 1950s and 1960s, British and French anatomists began discussing these findings at closed conferences, but there were almost no official publications. Why? Maybe because similar skulls were found outside Egypt, in Peru, Mexico, and the Caucasus. Ages span 2,000 to 5,000 years. Different continents and cultures, same outcome. Some believe that elongated skulls are the result of special head binding in infancy. For example, the Maya did this, but in a number of Egyptian finds, the bone structure suggests otherwise. The shape was always like that. If it's not a disease, it's a species. Maybe not ours, but forgotten. Some temple images reinforce this impression, showing beings with elongated heads and special headdresses, perhaps not to decorate, but to hide, or on the contrary, to signify. If these skulls aren't fake, a coincidence, or a deformity, who were the Egyptians living with? The unique preservation of an ancient Egyptian fetus. The fetus, discovered in a mummified Egyptian woman, was preserved for more than 2,000 years due to an unusual decomposition process. In April 2021, we discovered the first case of pregnancy in an ancient Egyptian mummy, still surviving today. It was previously believed that the mummy in the National Museum in Warsaw was the priest Hor Jehuti. A more thorough examination using tomographic images showed that it was a woman between 20 and 30 years. At the time of her death, she was pregnant at the 26th to 30th week. The deceased was covered with natron to dry out the body. Natron is a natural mix of sodium carbonate decahydrate, about 17% sodium bicarbonate, plus small amounts of sodium chloride and sodium sulfate. During this process, the fetus was still in the womb and essentially began to pickle in the acidic environment. Formic acid and other compounds produced after death in the womb from decomposition processes alter the woman's body pH. The womb's shift from alkaline to acidic caused minerals to leach from the fetus's bones, leading them to dry out and mineralize. According to the investigator, the process of Egyptian mummification from a chemical point of view is a process of tissue mineralization, which can be preserved for thousands of years. These processes explain why we rarely see fetal bones on a computed tomography scan. We may see a hand or foot, but these are dried tissues, not bones. Only part of the skull remains. The mystery of ancient spheres. Scientists have uncovered the secret of the mysterious stone spheres found in East Africa. For a long time, it was believed that these were simply natural formations, but new research has shown that they are actually some of the first universal tools used by ancient humans. Archaeologists found over 30 basalt spheres in the Melkokuntura area of Ethiopia's Upper Awash Valley. These stones date back 600,000 to 1.7 million years. Thousands of other stone tools and hominid bones, from Homo ergaster to Homo sapiens, were also found. All this suggests that these places were actively used by ancient people for a very long time. Paleoanthropologist Margarita Musi's research showed the basalt spheres were not used randomly. Many have surfaces marked by impact traces, indicating use as hammers or crushers. Moreover, the stones were selected by weight, shape, and hardness. The harder ones were used for working with other stones, while the softer ones were used for working with plants or food. Volgograd discs. In the Medveditskaya Ridge in the Volgograd region of Russia, known for its anomalous zones, mysterious stone discs were discovered. The find consisted of 6 large round objects, the largest of which reaches 4 meters in diameter. Researchers claim that the structure of the discs is astonishing. Their composition includes tungsten, a rare refractory metal used in modern industry and space technology. Ufologists have suggested that these strange objects could be the remains of ancient spacecraft that crashed to Earth thousands of years ago and eventually turned to stone. Such discoveries, resembling flying saucers, only fuel theories about ancient aliens who visited our planet. Another hypothesis attributes the disk's origin to natural erosion and concretion processes. Geologists believe that the stone formations could have formed due to high pressure and mineral deposition over millions of years. However, the perfectly round shape and the presence of tungsten remain unexplained to this day. The tomb of a girl in royal attire. Archaeologists have discovered a burial in Kazakhstan of a girl who was dressed in royal clothes. The tomb may be 1,500 years old. The grave was looted, but instead of gold jewelry, the deceased's skull was stolen. The girl likely died in the 5th or 6th century AD. Archaeologists suggest that the deceased belonged to the elite of a certain nomadic tribe. The burial was found on the Mangyshlak Peninsula, where many remains from the 1st to 6th centuries have been discovered. In total, archaeologists found 64 gold plaques in the burial, each with a diameter of 12 to 14 millimeters, several masks depicting human faces, gold embossed covers for 2 shoe straps, as well as plaque tips. In addition, other artifacts were found, including a fragment of a bronze mirror, numerous beads, and a dart tip. We've been observed for a long time. If we're searching for signals, it's logical to think someone might also be looking for us. But what if they found us long ago? In 2020, a group of astronomers published a study that changed the very way the question was posed. Scientists from Cornell University studied the surroundings of Earth and identified 1,400 star systems from which it's possible to observe our planet passing across the sun's disk. In other words, to see Earth the way we see exoplanets. Their main conclusion is simple. If there is intelligent life in one of these systems, they might know right now that we are here. Additionally, 508 of these star systems are located, so Earth would be visible against the sun for over 10 consecutive hours. That's enough to detect an atmosphere with oxygen, methane, and possibly signs of life. They might have detected us millennia ago, observed, waited, and possibly sent a signal that's still coming. The Network Project is a global network of radio telescopes monitoring deep space signals. We've checked thousands of systems, but have only found silence so far. Modern scientists are careful, not skeptical. People don't laugh anymore at those who suggest we aren't alone, since there are billions of potentially habitable planets. Aliens called home. Former United States counterintelligence agent Luis Elizondo made another sensational claim. According to him, some UFOs observed by the military have clearly visible engraved symbols that resemble ancient scripts. He claims that these signs may be an attempt by aliens to convey information or even instructions. Elizondo previously led the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, a secret effort to study aerospace threats. He claims he saw oval objects with strange surfaces engraved with symbols like hieroglyphs or runes. He believes that such things are not put there for no reason. It's part of communication. Interestingly, some of these symbols look similar to ancient scripts found on Earth. According to him, the Pentagon has long been comparing these signs with ancient alphabets, trying to find a match. Perhaps aliens use a universal visual language. That means we have more in common than it seems. Elizondo mentioned they've already called home, suggesting attempts to contact other worlds. Elizondo's testimony is also confirmed by other witnesses. Military pilot Jake Barber said he saw a non-human object just 150 feet away from him. Later, he was allegedly taken aboard a helicopter. Elizondo is certain there are many such devices, which United States intelligence has long studied, including fragments, microchips, and biomaterials. He urges the authorities to disclose this information and start an honest dialogue with the public. Cosmic alignment. We can forgive the ancients for inaccuracies, we can explain mistakes, but Egypt was not mistaken. The Great Pyramid aligns with the cardinal points, deviating by less than 0.05 degrees. That's more accurate than most modern buildings. Achieving alignment requires more than knowing where north is. You must also consider Earth's precession, its axial wobble, which shifts the sky over thousands of years. To build the pyramids so precisely, the builders must have observed the stars for centuries, or possessed data that shouldn't have existed. What's even stranger is the positioning of the three main Giza pyramids. They match the shape of Orion's belt exactly, aligned as it appeared in 10,500. Before Christ's astronomical models show, this is when Orion occupied that same position above the horizon. The Egyptians called Orion Sahu, the body of Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Coincidence? Another mystery is linked to this alignment. The pyramid is the center. The distance from it to the center of the Earth, between the north and south poles, and between the eastern and western meridians, is minimal. This is the geographic axis of the planet. How was it determined? The scientific explanation involves observation, trial and error, and centuries of experience. Alternatively, someone may have already known, and the pyramid could be a trace left by their tools or a landmark for future returnees. The amphitheater and the skeleton of the cat Maxipus. British archaeologists studied the remains of buildings from the Roman Empire in the town of Richborough in eastern Kent. In fact, Kent is the first place in Britain where a Roman soldier set foot, even before the main conquest, during Julius Caesar's campaign in 55-54 before Christ. This year, archaeologists announced discovering an amphitheater built for about 5,000 spectators. The 6-meter-thick outer wall is made of laid turf, while the arena's inner wall uses chalk blocks quarried on site. Traces of paint remain on the plaster, vertical and horizontal lines in red, yellow, black, and blue colors. They may have originally shown scenes from the amphitheater, gladiator fights, battles with wild animals, and executions. This is a rare find, as no amphitheater discovered in Britain shows any traces of wall painting. They found the buried skeleton of a domestic cat named Maxipus on the settlement's outskirts. What makes it unusual? Cats weren't the most common pets in ancient Rome, but after conquering Egypt, Romans lifted the export ban on them. But it's one thing to have a cat in Rome itself, and quite another in distant Britain. A cat in such a place is a sign that the settlement is, first of all, peaceful, and secondly, wealthy, because people who can afford to keep such a rare animal live there. By the way, a complete cat skeleton from that time is actually quite a rare find. Often, they fell victim to predators, but the skeleton of Maxipus rather suggests that he was actually buried, covered, so that no one would disturb the bones. The billionaire was accused of trying to hide an unidentified flying object. British ufologist and director Mark Christopher Lee made a sensational statement. According to him, evidence of the existence of aliens has already been obtained, but it is being carefully hidden from the public. At the center of this story is Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg, who, according to Lee, is funding a research project called Breakthrough Listen. It was this program, which searches for extraterrestrial signals, that detected a strange radio signal 2 years ago coming from the Proxima Centauri system, the closest star system to us, located just 4.2 light years from Earth. Initially, it was explained as ordinary satellite interference, but Professor Simon Holland, a former British Broadcasting Corporation science editor and National Aeronautics and Space Administration consultant, refuted this version. He says the signal has all the traits of extraterrestrial origin. Cambridge researchers have reportedly found signs of biological activity on an exoplanet in this system, but are withholding the data over possible political consequences. There is concern that if this information becomes public too soon, it will cause panic or an international race for contact. Coland and Lee believe that the dissemination of such data is strictly controlled, and it is possible that scientists from China or Russia might try to make such information public first. This discovery changed history. The Nebra Sky disk, created 3,600 years ago, remains one of the most mysterious archaeological finds to this day. Added to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization Memory of the World Register in 2013, this artifact stands out for its design and advanced manufacturing technology. Recent studies conducted in Germany have shown that the disk was made using hot forging in 10 stages, Each stage involved heating the metal to 700 degrees and processing it to relieve stress. This data was obtained using modern methods such as X-ray spectroscopy and microstructural analysis. Attempts to reproduce the technology showed that the ancient original methods surpassed modern processing techniques. The Nebra sky disk is not only a unique artifact, but also evidence of advanced metallurgical knowledge of that time. Tablets in garbage zones. There is a paradox in archaeology. The more puzzling a find is, the higher the chance it will simply be set aside or thrown away. During excavations at Tel El Amarna, a flat clay tablet was found with symbols unlike hieroglyphs or Sumerian cuneiform. It was classified as unsorted and later disappeared, like many similar finds. Sometimes these objects are found years later in storage, closed boxes, or even in trash near excavation sites. Some didn't want to register, some didn't understand, and others were simply afraid. According to witnesses, some symbols on the tablets resembled diagrams or formulas. What doesn't fit is thrown out. That's the price of a convenient history. Proof of the existence of a parallel universe. A group of physicists from the United States and Switzerland have announced a possible discovery that could change our understanding of reality. Researchers have detected strange quantum anomalies in a particle accelerator that do not fit within the framework of classical physics. They believe these anomalies may be the first sign of parallel worlds. One of the leading participants in the project suggested that this could be about the so-called shadow universe, an invisible reality that subtly interacts with ours at the subatomic particle level. While this data isn't fully confirmed, its observation has already sparked strong reactions in the scientific community. If the hypothesis is confirmed, it could become a real breakthrough. Humanity will come closer to understanding the multidimensionality of the universe, and in the future, to creating technologies for moving between dimensions. For now, all this sounds like science fiction, but such ideas are already ceasing to be pure theory. Earlier, scientists Paolo Bassani and João Mogejo also expressed the opinion that the structure of the universe and the very fact of its existence might be closer to the biblical description than to the traditional scientific model. The line between science and metaphysics is increasingly blurred. Jewelry that is 9,000 years old. This discovery was made in southern Jordan. Archaeologists managed to discover a child's burial in which there was a necklace. Not all the beads remain. Restorers replaced some with new black beads to restore the ancient piece's integrity. Scientific restoration often uses materials and colors different from the original for missing fragments. This ensures that even years later it's clear which piece is authentic and which is an imitation or replacement. There were over 2,580 beads in the necklace. The restoration work lasted for 2 whole years. Specialists from Nice and Stuttgart worked on the restoration. Once the repairs were done, the restored item was given to the Petra Museum. The child who owned this piece of jewelry was 8 or 9 years old. Most likely the child was a girl. Since 2019, the museum has featured a reconstruction of this burial, along with the excavation finds on display. The Shroud of Turin and its connection to UFOs. This mysterious Christian relic interests religious groups, paranormal researchers, and ufologists alike. This 4-meter-long linen cloth contains the imprint of a human body, presumably crucified, which, according to legend, is associated with Jesus Christ. The relic is kept in the Turin Cathedral and sparks endless debates about its authenticity. From a scientific point of view, radiocarbon analysis indicates its medieval origin, but there are theories linking it to divine or even extraterrestrial intervention. The uniqueness of the image on the shroud is hard to explain. It was not painted with a brush, but looks like an imprint, resembling a photographic negative, which is incredible for the technology of that time. The connection with UFOs and extraterrestrial theories arises from the hypothesis that the shroud could have been the product of highly advanced technology. Ufologists claim that the process of creating this imprint could have been connected to the release of powerful energy or a light pulse, similar to modern laser technologies. Some believe that the resurrection of Jesus, accompanied by a miraculous event, could have been the result of intervention by extraterrestrial civilizations who shared their knowledge with humanity. But these are just theories. a frog, or a jade birthing woman. Archaeologists have presented the first results of excavations at the Sfinjerichka Chuka site in southern Serbia, and they turned out to be truly impressive. This site, located in the South Morava River Basin, has become a real window into the past. Here, remains of settlements about 8,000 years old have been discovered. The earliest finds date back to the early and middle Neolithic period, approximately 6,100 to 5,500 before Christ. Among the many artifacts, special attention was drawn to a small jade pendant resembling a frog or a figure in a birthing pose. It was discovered near an ancient house. It weighs just a few grams, is matchbox-sized, yet its importance is huge. Jade is not found in these parts, and its nearest source is in southern Bulgaria, which indicates complex connections between ancient communities. Along with the jade figurine, researchers discovered 115 clay statuettes and building remains, suggesting permanent residence instead of temporary camps. People also came back here during the Bronze and Iron Ages. One Bronze Age burial even surprised experienced archaeologists. In a stone box lay a person with more than 30 gold beads. Such luxury is uncommon in the region and may relate to lower Danube cultures. Charles Ford and the hunt for anomalies. When you look at the sky and see something strange, you're not alone. 100 years ago, there was a man who dedicated his life to exactly such moments. His name was Charles Ford. He didn't seek proof. He collected oddities that didn't fit science. Rains of fish, sky flashes, disappearances, and mysterious objects. He only recorded knowing facts can be scarier than theories. Ford trusted neither science nor religion, as both ignored the inconvenient, where the most interesting things exist. He used to say there's a place between facts and fantasy where anything is possible, and it's real. We just don't know how to see it. His books were secretly read, like forbidden works, and his ideas inspired many movies and television shows. From The Twilight Zone to The X-Files, he proved anomalies aren't nonsense, but misunderstood reality. You don't have to believe, just don't look away. Now, millions carry on his work. Whenever someone posts online, I saw a glowing object hovering and vanishing. That's Fordianism, a culture that investigates the strange instead of dismissing it. But there's also a downside. We become more doubtful and rarely know what to believe. This isn't just about finding anomalies, it's already a symptom. Egyptian artifacts found in Antarctica. This story may sound like science fiction, but some sources, including World War II military reports, mention unusual discoveries in Queen Maud Land, Antarctica. These include column fragments believed to be covered in hieroglyphs and remains of stone structures that look like Egyptian capitals. None of this is officially recognized, and all objects have vanished or are called natural formations. But the question remains, where did this evidence originate? One theory proposes that Antarctica was once ice-free in ancient times. The 16th century Piri Reis map depicts the continent's coastline beneath the ice with an accuracy only matched by modern satellite mapping. How did a 1500s cartographer know this? Or who did he copy it from? Some alternative researchers believe that civilizations could have moved between continents long before our current understanding of migration. If Egypt was truly part of a global network, its traces might be found in the most unexpected places, where no one is looking. A leaked private report mentioned an artifact fragment found in an icy cave. The metal was an unknown alloy with engravings of undeciphered Egyptian-like symbols. But the artifact disappeared, and all the members of the expedition signed a non-disclosure agreement. In a single copy. Near Lyod on Sweden's Elland Island, a rare Viking-era bracelet over 1,000 years old was discovered. During the Viking era, Elland was an important craft and trade center, actively interacting with regions to the south and east of the Baltic Sea. The bracelet was discovered by a private individual in a marshy area. As experts note, the find is unique. Most jewelry of that time was made of silver or bronze, whereas this piece is made of iron. A very rare material for this type of item. The State Historical Museum reports that of over 1,000 bracelets found, just 3 were iron. Yet the artifact found on Elland has no direct parallels. Animal heads decorate the bracelet ends, with rows of dots forming an intricate pattern along its length. Because the marshy soil has low oxygen, the bracelet remains in excellent condition. Researchers suggest that the bog may have been a site for ritual offerings, and they plan to continue excavations using metal detectors. A fragment of a granite device. The granite artifact from Japan with mysterious patterns still sparks a lot of debate among scientists and researchers. This stone, found near ancient structures, puzzles researchers with its unusual shape and precise craftsmanship. Its surface features numerous indentations and lines that connect into a complex pattern, the meaning of which remains unknown. The official version suggests that the stone might have been part of a decorative element of a palace or temple, but this hypothesis raises doubts considering the precision and symmetry of the patterns. Granite is an extremely hard material, and processing it requires complex tools that were unlikely to be available to ancient craftsmen. The technology behind creating such smooth, deep recesses in a labor-intensive material raises even more questions. The mystery deepens with the assumption that the discovered artifact may be just a fragment of a larger structure. If its original appearance can be restored, it might be possible to uncover its hidden purpose. Some theories connect the artifact to ancient technologies lost or introduced by an advanced, possibly extraterrestrial, civilization. The skillfully crafted elements on the granite might have been part of some mechanism, a device for collecting or concentrating energy. This discovery reminds us of how many mysteries our history holds and opens up space for imagination and new research. Neolithic era floors? Humans have lived in Lebanon for about 1.7 million years. Science doesn't know who lived there first. Tools and campsites have been found, but no bones. The people between the earliest inhabitants and us have vanished. The very first human beings, who are not well understood by us, are scientifically called proto-humans. Archaeologists have been making notable and clear discoveries for about the past 100,000 years. Over 400 ancient human sites have been found in Lebanon so far. It is known that sapiens and Neanderthals lived here at the same time. Some migrated from Europe to Africa, others the opposite way, meeting and living together in Lebanon. The Neolithic period in Lebanon starts around the 10th millennium before Christ. At this time, people were already starting to build houses for themselves, and several such houses have been found in different regions of the country. One of these regions is the city of Byblos, officially called Jebel. This city is the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. It is at least 8,000 years old, although there are findings on its territory that date back to an even earlier time. At that time, people were buried in huge jars like these. 250 of them have been found. This is on display at the Beirut Museum, where the ancient cemetery was discovered. If you look closely, you can see scattered stones in this shot, and a light-colored stone fragment on the left side. These are the remains of a house around 8,000 years old or more. It's its floor. Here's another such floor. You can even stand on it. You can feel like a person from the Stone Age. By the way, the houses were small. Here's an inscription in 3 languages stating this floor is made of Neolithic limestone. It's a pity they weren't properly preserved. I suspect that the most valuable surviving samples were moved to museum storage. The Beirut History Museum, still under construction, will display the city's oldest residential house discovered during tunnel construction. The house is 11,000 years old. Excavations at the Imperial Residence. Recently, excavations at the legendary Golden House of Nero, Domus Aurea, in Rome, led to an important discovery. Archaeologists found a rare Egyptian blue pigment, one of the most expensive and technologically complex dyes of antiquity. This discovery reveals both the emperor's luxurious lifestyle and the advanced artistry of ancient Rome. The Domus Aurea was built in the 1st century AD after a fire destroyed much of the city. This palace became the embodiment of imperial power, with marble halls, artificial lakes, and frescoes created by the famous artist Fomis. At the site of the former workshops, archaeologists discovered vessels with pigments, among which a massive ingot of Egyptian blue weighing 2.2 kilograms stands out. This pigment was made using a complex process that fired copper, limestone, and sand at around 900 degrees. Vitruvius, the Roman architect and theorist, described the recipe early on. The blue color was considered a symbol of divinity and eternity, and its use emphasized the high status of the patron. Interestingly, Egyptian blue was also used during the Renaissance. There is reason to believe that masters, including Raphael himself, were inspired by ancient recipes. The pigment from Nero's palace linked antiquity to 16th century art. Egypt and UFOs. Thousands of years ago, Egyptians gazed at the sky and, according to texts, saw more than just stars. In one of the papyri attributed to Pharaoh Thutmose III, a strange incident is described. A disk of fire appeared in the air, emitted light, hovered motionless, and then shot upward. This temple archive text was seen as allegory until compared with modern, unidentified flying object descriptions. On the walls of some tombs, there were symbols that cannot be explained by mythology. Round objects with rays, figures floating in the air, strange capsules over which priests are bending. They aren't the focus, but are always nearby, like part of daily life or fear. The Egyptians believed that knowledge came from the sky, not metaphorically, but literally. Thoth, the god of wisdom, descended in the form of an ibis, but many texts describe him as shining from a heavenly boat. Osiris came on a ray of light. Even the term Neteru, which we translate as gods, literally means those who came. Coincidence, or a memory of something that once happened. If any of these coincidences are real, Egypt may not have been isolated. It was a beacon for outsiders, or those destined to return. Religion, UFOs, and cosmic mythology. Today we separate believers from skeptics. Yet, ufology is where faith and science oddly overlap. Essentially, UFOs are a new form of an old religion. Only instead of gods, there are beings from other star systems. Belief in aliens has become what belief in angels used to be. They come from the skies, are more intelligent, and often bring revelations. Philosopher Paul Kurz called ufology the space age's mythology, saying people need to feel they're not alone and that someone might be watching or guiding us. God did this before, now it's the cosmic brothers. Psychologist Carl Jung wrote in the 1950s that unidentified flying object images reflect the collective unconscious. Like, if in ancient times a person saw a shining angel in the sky, today he would see an alien ship there. The only difference is in cultural interpretation, but the archetype is the same, a contact with something higher. Some went even further. Since the 1970s, real unidentified flying object religions have emerged worldwide, such as Rael's Elohim Temple movement. He claimed to have met aliens and visited their planet. There are also dozens of similar movements. Many believe we were genetically engineered by extraterrestrials. Some await a second coming. Others expect their creator's return. Aliens appeared on Earth before humans. Researchers from Harvard and Montana Technological University have proposed a hypothesis that could radically change how we see aliens in the universe and on Earth. According to their theory, aliens arrived on Earth long before humans appeared, and instead of leaving, they decided to stay underground. This idea has been called the crypto-terrestrial hypothesis. The authors suggest that aliens settled on Earth millions of years ago, possessing advanced technologies. When humanity emerged, they chose to hide, likely to avoid interfering with civilization's development. Occasionally, they aided people with advice, technology, and knowledge, leading others to mistake them for gods. Scientists point to evidence such as mysterious artifacts, ancient engravings of flying saucers, and structures impossible for their era. Interestingly, researchers consider the Earth's interior, the Moon's dark side, Mars, and ocean depths as potential alien bases. The Alaskan Triangle is noted for frequent unidentified flying object sightings and mysterious disappearances. Another version suggests the aliens arrived on Earth aboard a planet ship after leaving their dying star. This hypothesis explains how they managed to overcome the vast interstellar distance. They may have left their planet on the outskirts of the solar system, beyond Pluto's orbit. Skeptics cite the lack of direct evidence, but the authors argue we still know little about what lies beneath the Earth, in oceanic trenches, and on the Moon's far side. Perhaps intelligent life has long been nearby. It just doesn't want to be discovered. It's up to each person to decide whether to trust the Harvard researchers. I'm just sharing the latest discoveries and interesting facts about our history, which hides a lot of fascinating and incredible things from us. Thanks for watching until the end. Goodbye, everyone.